Jai Sri Radhe. Welcome to the Migratory Monk channel. One of the greatest proofs of humanity having had a head start with a divine Vedic civilization is found in the University of Vedic Music. The current notion that man developed language, music, medicine, science, technology, etc., beginning from a wild caveman stage, does not seem to be plausible. Likewise, the notion that Eastern and Western music developed independently of each other is also not correct. All music originated from the Samaved. The biblical stanzas are known as Psalms, Psalm, precisely because the stanzas of Samved and other Vedas used to be sung in Europe prior to Christianity. The word Sham is also a typical instance of how Sanskrit words have got camouflaged in the so-called European languages by the addition or deletion of a letter or two. The word Sam, Psalm, may be noticed to be the Sanskrit word Samaveda, though the European spelling has burdened that word with some additional letters such as P and L. Samved lays down the ground rules for music. Along with music, dance, painting and drama are considered sacred arts in the Vedic tradition. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, the Trinity, constitute the first orchestra. Shiva as Nataraj, the cosmic dancer, worked out the various modes of rhythm, while Brahma and Vishnu accentuate the time beat. Brahma clangs the cymbals, means kartal, and Vishnu beats the mrudangam, drum. Goddess Saraswati plays the veena and Lord Krishna plays the flute. Vedic ragas are fixed melodic scales. The 6 basic ragas branch out into 126 derivative. Raginis means wives and putras means sons. Each raga is based on a minimum of 5 notes. The leading note means Badi is the king and the secondary note means Sambadi is the prime minister with attendants means Anuvadi. Then notes and a dissonant means Vivadi, note tantamount to rival opponent. Each of the 6 basic ragas is attuned to a certain hour of the day or night and season of the year, and a presiding deity bestows a particular benediction and potency on the note. The Hindola raga is appropriate for the dawn in spring, evoking a mood of universal love. It brings to mind the gentle rocking of an open-air swing. The Deepak raga is played during summer evenings to arouse compassion. The Megha raga is for the monsoon season in noon hour to instill courage. The Bhairava raga is assigned to mornings from August to October to strike a note of tranquility. The Sri raga represents pure love and is considered fit for autumnal toilets. And the Malkonsa raga is regarded as appropriate for the midnight hour. Vedic music divides the octave into 22 Shrutis, means semitones. The corresponding Western chromatic scale is limited to only 12 semitones. The 7 basic Vedic notes are associated with the natural colors and the cry of a bird or animal. Again, Vedic music outlines 72 scales. Sanskrit literature describes 120 talas, means time measures. Bharata, the ancient master musician, is said to have analyzed the song of a lark into 32 talas. The Sanskrit word for a musician is Bhagavatar, means one extolling divinity through music, indicating that Vedic tradition rules out profanity in all human activities. Musical gatherings are known as Sankirtan, means collective singing in praise of divinity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His divine pastimes. Ancient Greek author Strabo observes in his book Strabo's Geography, page 187, volume 2, that, quote, from the song, the rhythm and the instruments, all Thracian music is supposed to be Asiatic. Those who regard the whole of Asia as far as Bharat, consecrated to virtues, refer to that country as the origin of a great portion of the present music. One author speaks of strikingly, forcibly, the Asiatic sithara. Unquote. Thus, the ancient Greek author Strabo is certain that music originated in Vedic Bharat. The Sanskrit word tara signifies a metallic wire or animal god or the string of a musical instrument. Thus, one way of naming musical instruments is by specifying accurately or approximately the number of wires strung in it. An instrument with one wire used in Bharat is known as ektara or ektari. Those with 7 wires is known as saptatar alias sitar. Then those with 100 wires is called satatar or santur. There the syllable sent, S-E-N-T, is in fact the Sanskrit word sat, means 100. Here it may be noticed how N has been interpolated to make the Sanskrit term sat sound as sent. The Sanskrit word Sangit connotes instrumental music because San signifies accompanying and Git signifies the sung. This same Sanskrit word Sangit was also commonly used in Europe of the pre-Christian era. It is apparent from cognate English terms such as sing, sung, singer and singing. The term music these days used both for vocal and instrumental music originates in the Sanskrit word maukhik, means quote of the mouth unquote, means connoting vocal music. The term vocal is the Sanskrit term bachal, means pertaining to bacha, means human voice alias speech. From this it should be apparent that the term viva voce is the Sanskrit term jiva bacha, means the actual voice of the living entity. The term gargle is also Sanskrit term gala, means throat, and the earlier syllable gar is the sound produced while gargling. The term gazal means shallow is an instance of how Sanskrit syllables got transposed in Western languages. The original Sanskrit word galag means something sent down the throat has come to be spelled as ghazal. This will be apparent from the Islamic term ghazal. That too is galag, means emanating from the throat. There too the Sanskrit syllables change places. During Islamic rule in Bharat, from 1206 to 1858 AD, all commercial music was chained to prostitutional revelry in Muslim courts. In that process, a large number of musicians, vocalists as well as instrumentalists got willy-nilly converted to Islam. This gave rise to the myth that music was of Muslim origin, that Muslim courts patronized or encouraged music, that Muslims have made a great contribution to music and that they designed several musical instruments. So, a person who has some basic ideas about Islam can very easily understand that all those are motivated canards. Islamic fundamentalism fronts on music, while in Vedic tradition, vocal and instrumental music is a necessary part of all human rituals. So much so that Vedic tradition provides for music to be played all along the route while even a dead body is carried on the bier for cremation. The idea behind it is to regard death as but the earthly part of the Jivatma's itinerary. The Jivatma therefore deserves a loving musical farewell, along with the chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Lord Vishnu at the end of a part played well. Since death in Vedic tradition signifies but a change of the Jivatma's role and a change of scene and an act in divinity's eternal drama. The departed Jivatma is given a ceremonial farewell with the divine Sankirtan of the chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Lord Rama or Krishna in Vedic practice. The Vedic science of music is a detailed technical study involving years of meticulous training under an elderly and experienced guide known as the Guru. The entire musical terminology is exclusively of Vedic origin. The names of the various tunes are all Sanskrit. The songs, mostly in praise of various deities, especially Krishna, are all Sanskrit. The dynasties which cultivate the art of music from generation to generation as known as gharanas. That again is a Sanskrit word from ghar, means griha, means household. Islam has no science of music. It has no use for music. My dear friend, please try to understand. Music originates in finer sentiments, in a solicitous reverence for all life, and a desire to sing the praise of divinity as the creator and sustainer of this mysterious cosmos. Muslim or pro-Muslim writers have jumped to unwarranted conclusions from the profligate musical revelries at Muslim courts. They have not only propagated the myth of a Muslim encouragement to music, but have also ignorantly ascribed the origin of several musical instruments such as the tabla and sitar to Muslims. The tabla and the sitar and all other musical instruments are of very ancient Vedic origin. Far from Muslim courts encouraging and elevating music, that art which was maintained at a high divine and devout level under the Vedic dispensation was dragged down to the courtesan level by Islam. The ghazals and the qawwalis which the Muslim sings at tombs in Bharat are not because of Islam, but in spite of Islam. All Muslims in Bharat, being converts from Hindudom, they have carried with them into Islam their tradition of singing devotional songs in the name of divinity. But according to Arab and Iranian tradition, that is a sacrilege or profanation. Aurangzeb, the 17th century Mughal emperor of India, had forbidden his courtiers from attending any musical programs. Consequently, the courtesans of Delhi lost their clientele. That put a number of musicians out of employment in Delhi. To bring their plight to the notice of the emperor, the music fraternity organized a funeral procession in which they carried on a bier and effigy representing the muse of music. As they proceeded along the thoroughfare, they set up a loud wail as though grieving for the departed Atma. When the emperor inquired about the cause for such a loud public mourning, he was informed that the musicians put out of business were carrying the muse of music for burial. Aurangzeb was highly pleased. Consequently, his message was conveyed to the mourners was that music should be buried so deep as never to be able to raise its head ever again anymore. Aurangzeb regarded himself a deputy of Allah on earth, and in banning music, he was only carrying out Allah's wish. Islam thus stands for a total negation of all art and finer sentiments of human nature. The only art it admits is calligraphy, and that too is confined to the Quran. The Muslim contribution to the development of music is thus not only zero, it is minus because of its massacre orgies. The motivated Muslim concoction about the Islamic contribution to music must never be believed. If during the last 1 century or so we hear of a large number of Muslim names amongst renowned musicians, a little proof will reveal that due to generation of association with Muslim court life, those helpless Hindu artists got willingly converted. Some, like the well-known Tansen, remained devout Hindus till the end of his life. But the Muslim appellation of Mian, the Islamic equivalent of Mr., was deliberately prefixed to his name, and his name was made to sound Muslim. Though he died in Lahore, a fake cenotaph was erected in his name in Gwalior, and ever since an annual music festival is held around that fake grave. Amir Khusru, a fanatic Muslim general of Sultan Alauddin Khilji's cruel entourage, is lauded as a great saint poet. In Muslim tradition, anybody and everybody plundering torturing, terrorizing or massacring non-Muslims is lauded as a Sufi saint. Amir Khusru is one such. He sings of cooling the temper of his Islamic sword in the blood of kafirs. Such an Amir Khusru is said to have struck upon the idea of splitting the mrudangam, the single egg-shaped drum with two faces, or into two pieces, as tabla and daga. This is simply a canard. Both the mrudangam and the tabla daga pair are ancient Hindu Vedic percussion instruments. The mrudangam was generally used by peripatetic minstrels who had to sing standing and dancing. The tabla and daga were used for squatting performances. The tabla is a Sanskrit word where the first syllable sta signifies tal, means the rhythmic beat, while the other syllable bala signifies its strength or potency. Moreover, the tabla is a wooden cylinder while the daga has a metallic body. Therefore, the notion that the tabla and daga constitute but two pieces of the mrudangam is childish imagination and incorrect. Even the fancied European terminology of music is all of Vedic Sanskrit origin. The term tambor is the Hindu word tambora, which is very common in Bharatiya music. A man handling the tambora is known in Sanskrit as tamboradhar. In Europe, that same term got corrupted to troubadour. Similarly, the term harmonium is generally regarded as European, but it is purely Vedic. To understand this, let us analyze the term harmonium. There, the last syllable can be easily detected to be Sanskrit, because that is a very common neuter gender ending in Sanskrit. It signifies pertaining to. The 7 basic notes of the Vedic science of music are sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. Of these, ga, pa, dha are eliminated, and the scale is abridged to contain only the first, second, fourth and last, namely sa, re, ma, ni. It now be remembered that sa and ha are interchangeable. For example, the word Sindhu has become Hindu. Therefore, the 4 basic notes could be said to be ha, re, ma, ni. To this, we affix the Sanskrit ending and we get the word harmonium or harmonium. Thus, the realization that the word harmonium is composed of the basic notes of the Vedic science of music, though it appears to be European, is proved enough that all music, whether Western or Eastern, is of Vedic origin. Incidentally, it may also be noted here from the previously given illustration that the English word harmony too is of Sanskrit origin. The English word drum is a corruption of the Sanskrit word damru. Lord Shiva is depicted as holding a damru in his hand. A transposition of the 2 syllables of the Sanskrit damru has resulted in the English word drum. Similarly, the English word band indicates a group of musicians, alias an orchestra. The Sanskrit word is brind, B-R-I-N-D. Since bhi is often pronounced as b, brind came to be pronounced first as brind and later as band. Another derivation is the Sanskrit word bandh, indicating a tie and therefore a group tied together as a musical ensemble is a band. One of the pipes forming part of a Western orchestra is known as picaoli. That is because the bird cuckoo, renowned for its sweet notes, is known as pica in Sanskrit. So also the term avali in Sanskrit signifies a row. Therefore, the term picaoli signifies a pipe producing a row of notes as sweet as those of a cuckoo. From this word too, it should be apparent that European music is of Vedic Sanskrit origin. The natural conclusion, therefore, is that the Vedas and Sanskrit come at the very start of all human civilization. The Islamic word Kabbali has a similar Sanskrit connotation. Qawwali is supposed to be a popular Muslim tune. The word Kavya is Sanskrit. It signifies poetry, and the word Avali is a row. Therefore, Qawwali alias Kavya plus Avali or Kavyavali amounts to a row of versified lines. The violin is popularly believed to be a Western musical instrument with an European name, but that is a misconception. Violin is a Sanskrit term. The Sanskrit word Jiv, connoting a life or Atma, is pronounced as bio in Greek, bhaiv in French, and live in English. The first syllable bio in the term violin is that term viva, meaning life or Atma. The latter syllable lean is almost the English word alien, lean means inclined towards. The Sanskrit word lean, L-E-E-N, too implies losing oneself or merging oneself with something. Therefore, the term violin means jiv lean signifies a musical instrument producing such enchanting music that the listener or the player forgets himself and leans towards the melody or merges his life and soul in its mellifluous melody. The term guitar too is of Sanskrit origin. The Sanskrit word git signifies a song, and tar stands for the musical string or wire. Consequently, git-tar alias guitar represents a string tongued to the accompaniment of a song. The word harp is also a Sanskrit word. In the Vedic musical tradition, all string instruments were known as Veena. There were in all 64 such Veenas, each distinguished by some figure associated with it. The number of strings, their resonance, and the shape of each Veena varied. Thus, for instance, the Mayur Veena had the figure of a Mayur, means peacock, adorning it. In like manner, there was a Hans, means swan Veena, a Narad Veena, which the celestial saint Narad Muni always carried with him. Vichitra Veena means a special kind of Veena with picturesque resonance. Another one is Saraswati Veena of goddess Saraswati, and so on. Among them was Sarpa Veena, which was so known because it had a serpentine frame. Later, common noun got dropped, and the instrument was called briefly as Sarp. And since S and H are interchangeable, for example, the word semisphere is spelled as hemisphere. The Sarpa Veena came to be called only harp. Therefore, the harp too belongs to the Vedic musical tradition. Let us consider the word piano. Veena was the original Sanskrit word. Since V is often pronounced as V, Veena came to be pronounced as Veena, B-E-E-N-A. Veena turned into Viano, and Viano changed to piano. Again, V and P are interchangeable, as may be seen in the termination Puri, P-U-R-Y, signifying a township. For example, Jagannath Puri in Odisha, changing to Buri, B-U-R-Y, as in Waterburi. So the term piano is of Sanskrit origin. Very enchanting music is often termed in English as lilting. That is because the Sanskrit word for anything with a tender emotional appeal is called lalit. All literature and art having such an appeal is grouped under the Sanskrit adjective lalit or lalit kala. Though in this episode I generally point out the Vedic origin only to English terms, yet the reader may be sure that the Sanskrit derivation must hold true for all languages of this universe, because man's speech began with the Sanskrit, the first and only language bestowed by divinity on mankind. It may also be noticed that starting from Bharat, the British Isles lie at the very other end of the European continent. If, therefore, these two countries, Bharat and England, are seen to be joined by a common Sanskrit link, scholars must learn to conclude that other European countries in between, and in fact other continents too, must have been strung to that same cultural and linguistic chain. Therefore, scholars of other languages and regions may hereafter look for their Sanskrit links, mutatis mutandis, on the lines indicated in this volume. I have already pointed out above that harp is the sarp, means sarpavina of Vedic tradition. Angas Og, the Celtic god of love and son of Dagda possesses a harp of pure gold. The earliest known use of a bow for a musical instrument has been traced to Bharat. The lute, often seen in the hands of the Hindu goddess Saraswati, is not unknown in Scotland. The very name Angas Og of the Celtic god of love is obviously the corresponding Sanskrit Vedic name Anangdev or Anangdev. The Vedic god of love means Kamdev. Angas Og is a corruption of the name of the Vedic god of love Anangdev. The name Dagda is the Sanskrit word Dagda, means burnt. The Vedic god of love, having been burned down by an angry Lord Shiva whose tapasya had been disturbed, was known as Dagda. Therefore, Dagda means the burnt one. Is as though the father, while his new incarnation Ananga alias Angas Og, namely one who is now a mere bodiless spirit, is the son. So, my dear viewers, if the world is like a wheel, the pivotal point is Vedic Bharat. Hare Krishna. Please like and subscribe this video. Thank you very much.
Jai Kashinath Shambho, Jai Amarnath Shambho, Jai Badrinath Shambho.
He Jata Jutidhari, He Tripurantikari, He Jata Jutidhari, He Tripurantikari, Jai Nandinath, Jai Gaurinath, Jai Bhutinath Shambho, Jai Nandinath.